Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Market Internal Review for Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. We're going to jump right in here on the SPY 2-minute chart. So we had JPOW come out this week and came in with a no rate hike announcement. I guess sticking right where we're at. I think bonds are moving a little bit towards the downside, and with that somewhat looking like potential relief bounce. Per the SPY daily chart, as I mentioned, we were selling off here since growth hit this high on October 17th, so mid-October. We wicked this 50% level, and we proceeded to have quite the range down from the highs there, almost $30. Now we had a little bit of a bounce off the 200 here once we broke below. Continued to sell off, with growth being down here around 17%, or no, 15%, my bad. I had mentioned that I was going to keep my bias in check here, utilizing 50% of this range. I was not going to be very interested in upside until we could reclaim 415. Then perhaps we could see 10 SMA, maybe 200. If we rejected that, then I was looking to stay more on the bear side. Being that growth had hit this area, we did reclaim 415 after Monday. We had that gap up on Tuesday. Monday we closed basically right on it, and then Tuesday and Wednesday we spent significant amount of time buying up towards the 200 SMA. Now today was an absolute shocker for me, seeing us completely gap the 200 and the 20 on the daily, and sit us squarely right back in this range from mid-October. Absolute shocker. So Wednesday we get this little pump and dump kind of thing that always seems to happen on the FOMC days. We were holding Tuesday's TWAP first standard deviation area. Multiple times we tested some of that range. We tested previous day high on Wednesday. All the indices for the most part followed very similar patterns. So not a huge buy day, not a huge sell day, mostly flat, but still finished higher on the day and higher on the week. Heading into today, SPY had a $4 gap, far beyond this previous TWAP range, far beyond, just everything, the previous day's range. It made it quite difficult to really trust a lot of things, but knowing what I know about the market internals, and if you watched my video, you may have known it as well, with how to detect a trending day on SPY, you would have seen some pretty incredible, pretty crazy information in the internals. So the ad and the vol. The ad specifically gave the early signal. Go take a look at that. So a $4 gap up on SPY. All of the New York Stock Exchange gapped up. All the indices gapped up. And look at ad. Ad started the morning fresh out of 1800s. Right? It took 4 minutes to break 2,000, which is incredible. 2,000 stocks in advancement per their price to start the day. Not even 10 minutes into the market. So incredible, right? What's volume looking like? Well, it took a little bit longer. We know, if you've watched my videos, if you've been using the market internals, you'll know that volume usually takes a little bit. Not sure why this isn't on my zero line. Volume takes a little bit to get into the groove of things. So we spent some time buying. Then we finally hit that bear zone right around 10 o'clock, and the volume today. Got to really condense the chart. This is insane. I've not seen this since February 1st was the last time we've seen something like this. So that should tell you how unusual it is. We're almost at the end of 2023, and the last time we had volume in New York Stock Exchange of this magnitude was darn near at the beginning of the year. So something definitely huge has occurred today from a volume standpoint, from the market internal standpoint. I have not spent the time yet to figure out where all this volume went. We'll take a look at least at a couple things and maybe we can see, but I looked around at some big names today. Didn't really see a whole lot of trending bull day type action across a handful of big tech names, so I don't know that it's in tech. I looked around at some finance. Just not sure. But going back to SPY here, we had maybe one gap test here, daily gap test at 1014. And that is squarely right where the volume broke into the bull zone at the low end. And you can see we just have this immense buy start up here on SPY. Looking at the indices across the board, so starting with the New York Composite right around that 10 o'clock time. So right about here. So on the monthly TWAP, we're testing that second deviation high, and we got that nice rip. Q's kind of per, everything I look at, not really clear why it bounced other than just the whole market is ripping. Nothing real clear alignment-wise as far as all the tools that I have built and what I've looked at. But I also know that Q's, they have their own internals, the NASDAQ internals. They have their own ad, they have their own VOLD, their own tick, and their own trend. So it could be, maybe it's aligning better to those internals versus the New York Stock Exchange internals. But I keep it the same across all the indices. I don't want to mix things up. So, anyways, the Dow was quite strong as well, noticing a lot of early advancement just on its price here and holding TWAP the entire morning session. They broke through a handful of monthly TWAP levels, especially right here around 1 o'clock. So that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind, is that 1 o'clock time frame. The Russell is also pretty strong today. Now they definitely lost TWAP a couple of times. Looking at them today, early in the morning, I kind of thought, okay, because the ad being over where it was in the strong bull zone, we just opened up. We had JPOW yesterday. We had a $4 gap on SPY and in the other industry, huge gaps across the board. I'm thinking I'll watch Russ, see if I can't grab a little bit of a short, thinking we're going to pull back after whatever the heck happened with some of the econ data over morning session and overnight. But they held this daily gap not once but twice here, and right where the volume kind of came into the market is right where we have one of these daily gap tests. And I see this a lot. It's the same thing the Qs did, where the candle pattern's almost always the same as well. It's a fake break kind of setup where they're dipping in, they're enticing shorts. Maybe people are trying to short here. They see some confirmation, I guess, of, short side time. Whatever. It could have worked, but it didn't. And then we'd buy this all the way up. Now they did test daily gap one more time around 12:30, but things really started cooking right around that 1 o'clock time frame. But the Russell overall, very strong day. A huge gap up for Russell, over just shy of $2.50 gap on Russ, and some days that's all it ever moves, or even less than that. So it's had a tremendous day, just including everything, about a $4.50 day. Interestingly, we can see here that we stopped square on the October final TWAP price at 169, almost 170. So that'll be an area to watch into the rest of this week. And it's certainly going to be a bigger time frame, kind of big picture signal for me on, how bullish or bearish, short side, buy side should I be. Just more macro speaking, I look to Russell to kind of give me a glance at the economic impact of the markets, just because it's a lot of small caps. I know they're really hurt with jobs and inflation and different things. I mean, all the businesses, no matter their size, are are definitely feeling the pinch right now, as it were. But these guys definitely seem to be moving around with the market, maybe moving the market some. I just know when I see Russell leading, usually everything else will follow. Not every day, but a lot of the days it has been. So if I'm going to be bullish, big picture, I'm going to look to make sure that Russell is holding the October TWAP price, and we're staying on the upside of this, above this range. So we'll see what happens. We just got 1 day left this week, tomorrow, and I'll see kind of where we end up. But depending on where we open, we could gap down tomorrow. We could come down tomorrow. Hard to say. But if we go over that, is this just another kind of bigger version of this daily gap breakdown here before we pump, where we're going to fake break over and then come down and start making new lows on the month already? Hard to say. So SPY per monthly TWAP, same kind of thing. We did clear the October opening price. I still had this on here. We cleared October's TWAP final price around 425.5. I don't know. Okay, yeah, Q's gapped it today, so they didn't even have to work that hard. Dow also. So all the indices are over October's final TWAP price, which means they're in that first standard deviation area, if not beyond. So we can see here Dow had a huge day and cleared the first deviation final range from October, which was quite massive given all the movement we had last month. So right around 1 o'clock, we've got trend and a balance. It's chopped around quite a lot here lately. Volume's already just flying high. I tweeted out that, I'm bullish into the end of the day, but it was really tough because we had already gapped up so high. It's like I knew buys were better than shorts, but that doesn't mean you couldn't still lose out the theta decay if you're using 0-day options, or you might be chopped around trying to set decent safe stops. It was tough in that way today, because usually when we have a trending day, I like to have it that we don't already have a $4 gap, but 1 o'clock was the kind of the standard break and retest of the first standard deviation on the high side in this case. So that first standard deviation break and retest, I look for that in pattern that I talk about. So we got the close over, we got the close below, and then we got the close back over again. That's just what I look for, and it was pretty decent today. Now, spooky a little bit, because again, we already, how high are we really going to go? What I had to do, which is nuts, I had to turn on the 7th and 8th and 9th deviations on my TWAP ranges indicator, just so I could try to find some kind of levels to trim off of. Now, typically, I look for 2 deviations. So that would have been from where I entered. So this would have been 1, and this would have been 2, which would take you to about just shy of 432. There is a reason I saw possibility in that, but by the end of the market, they just gave us 1 deviation. And I honestly, I think that's pretty reasonable considering what all had already happened for the day. Now, 431 and change is really close to the old range I had here that we gapped above. If I draw, and this chart's becoming incredibly messy, if I draw this range here, we're definitely kind of in some soup, I'll say, in that we've just got so many different ranges to compete with. Now, I will say I'm probably taking this one off. I don't really like that one anymore for where we're at. I think we've pretty much reconciled with these candles with this huge dump. But anyways, about that high, the 431 area, we've got room to get up there, but I think it was just asking way too much today for that. We also had trend balance, which was spooking me out a little bit. But you can see here every time, save for like lunch, the lunch hour, the lunch slump, I always call it, but every time we had bear tick, it was rapidly purchased. So we have one here, we have one here, and we had this nasty knife. What was that? I couldn't tell you, but we got some periods of tick here. We actually did have a couple breaks of 500 low side. Mercy even showed a midpoint tap there. That was the only one we had today, which was actually kind of cool considering I think it really gave a decent readout. But we had the final one here. Well, I guess this was a 500 break as well on this little 180. But every time, bear tick, every time buy, every single time. So definitely strong day. And I can't think of a better example of sticking with the trend, trying to find an entry. When you see volume like this, if you don't see the indices going up, just walk away or go, look for opportunities non-index. But when you see volume like this that early, by 10 o'clock essentially, if you're trying to be short, just go away. It's not worth your time. Same with the price. This was insane. This right here was so early and so sustained. I mean, we did come down here, which kind of had me looking maybe we're going to give her up, but that was around 12:30, and that's where we had this cluster of nasty lunchtime wick candles around TWAP, but we're still holding above. You go look at the other indices, and by that time, 12:30, none of the indices, I really don't think, save for Russ, none of the other ones were under TWAP. Q's riding it, but it's not under it. So that's, for me, there's not really any reason to start shorting there. I would much rather see it like a long arc back up and then start to come down, like something over here, but a little bit more bearish. I would have wanted to see the volume trend flip bearish, and we just didn't have that. And the other thing too, I point this out quite often, where we have one-sided tick. So today we had one-sided tick, which was another reason when I saw some weakness in the Russell. It often can lead. I went short on it because I'm thinking, okay, we've got trim balance, insanely strong tick, huge gaps across the market, one-sided tick. I'm going to try a short here, and I'm looking for strong rejection on add right around this area, and we saw some tick on the bear side, but that was it, and it started to be bought up aggressively. Thankfully, I'm moving my stops because I'm on Russ. I'm looking for continued weakness in this gap, and as soon as I start to see buying on the so this was about 10:10, but as soon as I start to see buying in the volume, I'm not seeing any weakness in the volume. It's time to get out. The sentiment is wrong. It's not right to be short when you're in this kind of a volume environment. There's zero. I mean, if you look at this one, right? So we got up and down candles, lots of chop. Same thing over here, right? It's snaking around like crazy, no real clear direction. We've had tons of this, right? But then you come over here. The difference should be night and day, should be crystal clear. This is something different. So anyways, so that's kind of, I guess in a nutshell, the main trade for me today was this break-in retest on upper TWAP band. Grabbed a couple coinage there. Other than that, I don't really have much else to say. There's where we're headed from here, it's quite difficult. I will say, looking at the growth chart again, look at where we're at. I forget which video it was now, but I mentioned this, how the runs down into this potentially, quote unquote oversold area are aggressive and violent, and there are huge ranges. But the journey back up to neutral And at least here in the interim, overbought. That's a very small range relative to the downside range. Like this one here, look at how insane. I mean, this range coming down, I think this is another almost $30 range here, and we basically didn't stop. I mean, we had a couple of pops, but they were quickly dumped. All right, look at the accompanying buy, half of that, $15, roughly speaking. So this time we had about $30, not quite. And I hate saying it, it's oversaid these days, but this time it does feel a little different. We're at $17. So I'm not going to expect us to go much higher than 50. So I'm short term, still kind of looking for upside, but now I'm gonna consider us somewhat extended. If we stay above 428, then I'll be happy to keep targeting 50 SMA on the daily, which currently is about 433, 433.5, we'll say. If we lose 428, then I'm going to look for us to come back down and maybe test even 415 area. Maybe we'll have some stops at 50. This candle maybe is big enough. We can have a 50% stop here around 421. Just kind of see what we do with that. But short term, I'm going to go back to my original thesis I had over here, is that we're going to start seeing a little bit more chop and just kind of let things sort themselves out after somewhat of a big move, considering this is about the same size as what we had here, and where our fake RSI is saying we're at per growth. With Apple earnings, with what happened there, I'm going to say, I'm bullish-ish, but I'm looking for a little bit of a move back down, and we could still kind of come back down. And the bullishness is going to stop definitely, kind of back around this range again. So 433-ish, like this whole area. Definitely no higher than 437. So just keep your wits about you. It's Friday. We just had Apple earnings, so that's going to be digested in the market. And tomorrow in ETH, we'll have non-farm payroll, unemployment rate, and another PMI. So it's going to be wonky Friday, I would bet. And then we're going to go into the weekend, and who knows what's going to be announced news-wise over the weekend. Next week, we've got a couple things, core inflation, but I'm not sure when we're going to have another JPOW. So FOMC minutes, that doesn't do a whole lot. All right, that's pretty much it, folks. I'm going to wrap it up here. Again, if you got any questions, feel free to reach out either on Twitter or X. Some of you guys are definitely doing that. It's been fun. I won't get to them all the time because I do have other things that I'm doing. I don't full-time trade. I do trade a lot during the day most times, but I can't monitor so many different places all at once. So if I don't get to your comments during the day when the answer might be the most relevant to you, I do apologize in advance. It's not my intent to ignore. It's just I won't see it in time. So, and if it's kind of pertinent, if it's time sensitive and I don't see it till later, I probably won't reply, just because I figure at that point you don't care about my answer. If you do, though, feel free to reach out and tell me you do. Anyways, thank you for watching, and as always, happy trading.